So, journaling. Is this habit that's been floating around on the internet really as good as it's said to be? Is it going to change your life in any significant way, and is it worth implementing? Now, having journaled for just about 3 years straight, and having found quite a bit of value in it, I figured I might make a video just to provide some tips, some tricks, and ultimately to share a list of the benefits I think I have received from doing journaling on a regular basis. Now, first things first, I'll just do a quick minute to talk about the way I actually journal. And I've tested out a bunch of things. I've written in the evening, in the afternoon, but what I've currently seen the most results with and what I kind of enjoy the most is a journal in the morning. And usually, journaling sessions for me consist of 2 to 3 things. The first thing is noteworthy moments. Journaling in the morning means that I'll jot down what I did the afternoon and evening the day before. I'll write down anything that sticks out from the ordinary. If I went to a calisthenics park with some friends and that's not part of the regular training plan, whatever it might be, whether you came across a good tip or some type of life-changing perspective or just a book you want to read, these basic things doesn't have to be very long, but it's sometimes just nice to sit down and get started a bit, get your hands warmed up in a way and just, get some words down on the paper. The second thing I do, not always doing this though, but what I'm doing, especially on days where I'm feeling, I don't want to say bothered, but perhaps worried, perhaps a bit more stressed than usual, perhaps a bit anxious about something. On days where I feel like my mind's a bit more heavy than it usually is, I like to sit down and try to gain some clarity into that. So I'll write basically how I'm feeling, what I might be stressed or worried about, and getting it out on paper is always quite nice. And yeah, third thing, this is something I always do every single day, and that is to make a plan for that day. So to get into the benefits, first things first. One of the biggest benefits I have received through journaling is that you make a plan, right? And that might be quite obvious since one of the points is to make a daily plan, but it's a really good time for doing that. If you journal in the evening, as I've done in the past, like what I've done is you just make a plan for the day after. But when journaling in the morning, I get up, get ready, and write down the tasks I want to achieve for that day. And this feeds into my second point. These are quite linked, and that is that it gives you a sense of direction. Right, you can obviously build this around larger systems. Maybe you like weekly planning, maybe you do monthly planning, and that's actually quite efficient because, quite effective because of things that you can't really plan for in the course of one day. They might take several days to complete. Regardless, it sets up a plan for that day, so you have a sense of direction. You have a bit of purpose and meaning behind your day, and you sort of know what to do. I find that whenever I do journal in the morning and I do have one of these lists, I sort of live, at least that day, a bit more mindfully, and I do things a bit more intentionally. So before I started journaling, I guess I did like most other people, like most people that don't journal, I guess. You wake up,
quit, don't quit, noodles.
Sort of go about your day, doing whatever you have to do. You do school, you do work, you might have a gym session in there. But it's sort of a bit ambiguous what you do the rest of the day. Suddenly something catches you a bit off guard. Somebody wants to do a certain activity or watch a particular movie, or you just watch something on YouTube, and then suddenly you fall down this rabbit hole of just exploring certain things are sort of brought upon you.
Ah, here we go again.
Whereas if you sit down in the morning or the night before and you make a sort of list, you have something that follows you through the day, right? Which is, hence why I said you live more intentionally. You have things to do and you get to execute the right things you have to do to get to or closer to your goals. And it doesn't always have to be the most super productive things, but it's just nice to have a sense of direction throughout the day. The days I don't do this, and before I started journaling, you might in the morning have a plan of, I want to do these and these things, but suddenly you've forgotten them amongst like worries and deadlines and other people, requiring this and that and influencing you in certain ways. It's kind of a hassle. It's nice to just put them on a piece of paper and have them next to you when you're sat working, or just as a general guideline for the day. Now, moving on to the third point, this is about writing things out and gaining a bit of sort of mental clarity in a way. As I said in the start, like the component of journaling, like writing things out, like worries and maybe like anxious thoughts, or, you being a bit stressed and checking in with yourself. It's not something I really do every day. I do it maybe once or twice a week, but it is quite nice to those days where you're feeling a bit just feeling a bit weird, feeling a bit melancholic, feeling a bit, I don't know, lost or worried or stressed, whatever it might be, these sort of subtle, like somewhat sinister but strange emotions, I guess, from time to time, it's nice to just sit down with a piece of paper and write things out. Because often things are quite different when you go carry them around in your head. If you actually write it out, whether you're dealing with a particular problem or you're just worried about something, when you write it out, you might actually find that the thing that seems to be a big problem in your mind is actually not that big a problem at all. Obviously, it doesn't necessarily just get solved by you writing it out, but it puts things in perspective. Once you have it on the piece of paper, it often seems like you can see it almost as a different person, and that's quite nice. So I'd say it's a bit therapeutic in a way. And also the paper has a lot of patience, right? It's not like you have to bother someone else with it, or some like other people might be like, obviously people are busy, people are doing their things, and it's nice to understand.
Emotional, damn it!
But generally speaking, it's nice to just be able to have a means of checking in with yourself and just getting to the roots of the problem, I guess. Or if not getting to the roots of it, just being able to sort of lighten the less, Jesus.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to excuse me.
To lighten the load on your shoulders and just step away from the journal with a bit of a lighter heart.
If you've got an issue, here's a tissue.
And, you've gotten something off your chest, you've put it a bit into perspective, and it's a nice opportunity to give it some thought. Is this actually a problem? Am I worried about it for nothing? Is it just I'm sort of building it up in my own head, or is it actually something worth looking into? So I find it to be very good for that. And then lastly is to build up just an archive of great, I'd say, advice, but just generally pieces of information that resonate with you. Certain things I find quite nice to throw into the journal and to highlight. And that's just, if I've watched an Andrew Huberman podcast, for example, of him talking about whether it's, for example, meditation or sleep or stretching or whatever it might be, and I feel like I've understood quite a few of the points, and there are quite a few things I'd like to take away from that video or from that discussion or from whatever, like something I might have read or come across or something that's really resonated with me in some way. I like to write that down in the journal and highlight it, and then it's a nice reference point for later on. And it might not be a general thing that someone's made a video about, it might be something that I've tested and experimented with and that works particularly well, at least for me specifically, and then it's just nice to build up an archive of that. So later on it might help you with something, or it's just nice to look over if you ever want to make a big change regarding like morning, nighttime routines, or the way you train, or the way you view life, or whenever you just want to sit down in the future and just have a think back at the old times, or back just, I don't know, how you've grown as a person actually. A big thing about this, of building this archive, is that not only is it good to look back at later on, but when you write things down, you're signalling to your brain that this is worth remembering. So you actually remember it better as well. So in this way, when I'm writing something down, not only is like, okay, I'll more easily be able to reference this in the future, just randomly scrolling through old journals, but also you remember it more clearly because you wrote it down. So those are the sort of big five. Then I also have a few extra benefits I jotted down, which are a bit more, not necessarily like fun, not fun, but smaller benefits that I figure might be involved in this. I wrote down better handwriting, but an asterisk for this. This is if you actually intentionally try to write better in the way you intend, if you want to change up your fonts and stuff. Like I've known a few people that are able to write with different fonts. Very impressive, quite cool. So if you're into that, it might be something that journaling can help you with. It's just every day you have an excuse, or you have just a vessel through which you can do some practice for whatever it might be. You can do calligraphy, but writing the entire journal entry, depending on how long you write, might not be the most time efficient thing. But there are many ways of doing it. It can be a tool to get better handwriting over time because you're consistently writing, is my point. You can get better at storytelling, especially if you're good at like picturing different, describing different scenes, different things you've done, noteworthy things, right? Whether you describe your yesterday or your current day or whatever it might be, you can get better at storytelling, which translates to, also just when you're telling stories to others, which is just a great way to, I guess, bond in general, right? To build relationships with others. Like storytelling is such a vital part to how humans interact. So that's a good point, I'd say. So yeah, just nice to just look back at what you've done in the past and how things have been, how much you've grown. Every now and then, if I'm a bit reminiscent, I might scroll through an old journal and look at how things were. For example, when I was back in high school, that's when I started journaling. So yeah, that's quite nice. And then yeah, it's meditative. It's a meditative habit, and you sort of ground yourself. At least what I do. It's nice to have this thing that creates a routine. Like, that's sort of also the point number one. I don't know if I passed by this too quickly, but it doesn't just create a plan, but just a routine, right? You have something that you routinely do, and you get into this habit of, at least for me, wake up, get ready, and then it's the journal, and then the points I jot down as like plan for today give me a sense of direction for the rest of the day. So that's actually really nice. And then last point I wrote down is it gives you time to be only with yourself and your thoughts. And I think this is really, really nice. Something that I guess most seemingly Western countries are kind of lacking today. We're also fixated on social media, on what's on the news, what's on the TV, what's going on in the world, constantly being bombarded by information, that it's kind of strange to sit down and just be bored, or just sit down, have no stimulation, nothing entering your mind, and just be thinking a bit clearly and deeply about how things are with you, how you're doing, and just checking in with yourself, really. So yeah, good practice. And obviously you have things such as meditation and stuff. By the way, if you want me to make videos about these things, let me know in the comments down below. But obviously you have lots of mindfulness practices out there, meditation for example being one of them, and it's hard to say, obviously, once you've been through quite a few habits, what is the most efficient, or maybe bad wording, but like what's the most effective, what will improve your life in the best possible manner, right? But I truly believe that journaling ranks very highly among these. So, I can't say it's number one or number two, it's too hard to say, but I truly say that it's a great thing to do to want to increase productivity, give your days a sense of direction and create a routine, give yourself an opportunity to look a bit more inward, to reflect, to focus a bit on what's going on with you, how are things doing this type of check-in, building an archive of just information, tips, advice, and perspectives that resonate with you, creating an archive of memories to look back at, and really just tapping out of the constant information stream that this world currently is, and just having a bit of time for yourself. So if you like this video, consider giving it a like down below. If you've tried journaling, how was it for you? Do you have any tips, any tricks that, maybe some benefits I didn't mention that you've experienced? And if you have any tips or tricks for the people that haven't journaled, or, the people that want to get into this, leave your comments down below. And as always, remember to keep on training, train what you love, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.